So my name is Alan Gormley. I'm the CEO. I co-founded the company with my CTO, Tarek Zaki. And myself and Tarek both met while we were working for a very large AI company. And really, we decided to set up Shopbox out of a frustration with really high-end AI technology being used by a very small number of very large retailers, and we felt we could bring really high-end AI technology to everybody. So we started on a journey to create what we call Shopbox AI, which is the company. We've been in business now about 4 years, and working with everything from very small to pretty large retailers. So let me flip over. I'm going to flip over to a presentation, take you through just a bit of background on what it is we do and how we've approached this market and why we're doing it the way we do it. I am going to show you a little bit live, so we'll have a look at it working live on one of our clients, and we can take some questions from there. Okay, so what Shopbox does is what we call a unique store for every customer. And let me give you a little bit of background on what we mean by that and why we're doing it. So if we look at the pressures retailers are under at the moment, and especially in the e-commerce area, is there's massive competitive pressure. So we all benefited enormously from COVID as everybody moved online. What's happened since then is the number of new stores has actually increased more than the spend within e-commerce. So the competitive pressure is not just that we're competing against people to sell, but we're also competing against people to buy customers and customer acquisition. And that's really squeezing margins. So it's everything from customers want cheaper products, but also we're experiencing spiraling costs of Google and other methods of getting customers in through the front door. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that the vast majority of e-commerce stores are already attracting enormous amounts of traffic, but the vast majority of that doesn't convert. So typically we're saying 1, 2, 3% conversion rates. 97% of people are never going to buy off us. And that's a massive opportunity. So we have a choice. We can go out and buy more traffic off Google. We know that's very expensive. We can spend some effort on that 97% of customers and try and make sure that we are increasing the value of the 3% and converting more of that 97%. And that's really where Shopbox comes in, because you've already paid for the traffic. Now it's time for us to help you take advantage of it. Okay, let's talk about why we set up the company, because I'm a firm believer that products come out of usually a frustration with something. And we had a massive frustration in that we see AI technology being used by very, very large companies. And while it's trickled down a little bit in the last couple of years, really, there's nobody who's hyper-personalizing at the rate that Amazon is. And Amazon are making, they reckon about 37% of their revenue comes from that level of hyper-personalization. When we look across the rest of the market, we realize that personalization outside of Amazon is actually in most cases doing too little too late. It tends to need quite a lot of data about each customer before it's actually going to do anything for that customer. Well, here's the thing. Most of the customers aren't going to make it that far. That 97% of people are never making it as far as the till. So we can't really personalize for them. That technology doesn't help us. And that was the real frustration myself and my co-founder started to look at. As we peeled it back, we realized that actually, if you concentrate on that end of the funnel, you miss nearly every decision that a consumer makes before they buy. Okay. What we actually want to do is we want to be in front of the customer before they've made most of their decisions, because that's when we can help them most, and that's when we can get most value out of them. Once they've made most of those decisions, it's very hard for us to change their minds. Okay, so we really looked at it and decided if we could create a system that could understand customers even before they knew what they wanted in a lot of cases, we could have a much bigger influence over customers, and that's where the real value comes out of. That's where we can influence them to buy better products, usually more expensive products at higher margin, put more stuff into the basket, and tend to be more satisfied with that purchase at the end of it. Okay, it also means that we can capture customers who are very price sensitive and make sure we move them through the funnel much, much quicker. Okay, so if we talk about what we created in order to do that, is we call it contextual AI. And the concept of contextual AI is that from the very first click a customer has on a store, we should be able to determine not just the product they're interested in, but why they're interested, what their mission is. Okay, so if we look at conventional AI at the top, we're all used to it. It's where we click, we come onto a site, we look at one product, and that product tends to follow us around for the rest of the next week or 2 weeks. And there's no determining why the customer might be buying that. So we're stuck in a competitive battle with everybody else who sells a similar product. With contextual AI, from that first product view, we can start to understand that it's not just about the boot. It may be that this person is actually doing something with it. They might be going on holidays. And as we pick up more signals from that customer, we can refine more about what they might be doing, but also understand more of the possibilities for what they might be doing. So we might be moving through whether they're going on, a sun holiday or a winter holiday, what type of equipment they need for it. As we pick up those signals, we figure out that they might have a family that they're going with, there's children going, so there's more possibilities for what we can sell to that customer. So we take that information and we basically rebuild the store in real time around that customer from that very first click, enabling them to see an awful lot more products that are relevant and essentially a store that's completely relevant to them. We'll have a look at that in the demo. This is one of our clients. They've been on the platform for about 2 years now. And they happen to be running on one e-commerce platform, but we support pretty much every e-commerce platform out there. Okay, so this store is their standard store, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at a particular product listing page, which is around dogs. Okay, the first thing I'm going to look at within Shopbox platform. So far we're still on the e-commerce platform. That doesn't change when you install Shopbox. That still exists as it currently does. We set on top of it. But the first thing is on a product listing page. The reason that we first looked at product listing pages is people tend to use them very early in the shopping journey. Okay, when they're already on product detail pages, they tend to have made a lot of their decisions. And we know that because the conversion rate tends to be much higher from product detail pages. So when somebody's very early in the shopping cycle, they want to see a broad range of products. The problem I have as a retailer is I'm not sure which products I should be showing them. We looked at that problem when we came up with the concept of an AI shop assistant, which allows a customer to see a product they like and basically shop from that product. So they see this particular product, they click on view similar, and it immediately brings up the AI shop assistant here, which has started to understand some of the needs of this customer. So we've seen substitute products on here, but also products that would typically go with people who are traveling with dogs where they need to feed the dog or give the dog water. So we see products related to feeding the dog, to give it water, to bringing it on, to transport products and things like that. And the great thing here is, as we move through the page, we can see a lot of relevant products for us right now without ever moving off the page. So we still continue along the journey we had through the store. We don't get distracted, but we do see a lot of relevant products for us very quickly. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look at on the, to just give you a bit more context is, let's say they select one of these products, or let's say they came to this product through Google Shopping Feed or through search results. It makes no difference. As long as they've come onto this product detail page, we now have a strong signal that this customer is interested in bringing a dog somewhere and needs some water, okay? From the single product view, as I mentioned in one of the first slides, we're interested in finding out the signals of what this customer might be doing really early in the shopping journey so we can change the entire store for them. The first part of that, if you look over here, this Your Pet, this is actually a shopping page we have set up specifically for this customer in real time based on their behavior. So we can see we are already building a store for this customer right in front of our eyes without ever knowing who this customer is, asking them to log on, asking them to sign up for anything. Every one of the 100% of customers who land on your site get to have this for themselves. So we can see we're finding equivalent products, but we're also finding other products that are related to this customer bringing a dog in a car. So protecting the car, making sure that we have a towel and whatever else we might need as we're traveling with the dog. Okay, so there's just two very simple examples from Shopbox of helping a customer before we even know what they want and making the store completely relevant to them, and then rebuilding that store in real time as we learn the signals about them. And as we learn more, this will adapt even more to them and blend products from the different needs that they have for the dog. Or if they've got multiple pets, it'll blend it from multiple pets. Okay, we'll just go back to the slides and talk about a couple of things that are important about what we're really trying to do here and what's different about Shopbox. Everything I've talked about so far has happened within seconds of somebody landing on the site. And everything for us is really about time. So every unique point is how fast we can learn things. So for instance, we can learn about a customer with just one click and understand the mission of that customer. That's critical because most people who land on your site are never going to go any further than the first page or two. So we have no time to learn. We have to learn straight away. We can't learn when they reach the basket. It's way too late. The second thing is the speed to understand products. When we go live on a site, we already have enough data to be able to be relevant to customer based on the current products without having to collect data. Typically, what we see in these sorts of projects before we set up Shopbox is people can be waiting 6, 8, 12 weeks learning about new products before they can represent them. We can represent them straight away. So for instance, if you put a new product onto the catalog, about 5 seconds later, we've remodeled the entire catalog so that we are now finding relevant customers for that product or that product where it's relevant for customers. The third thing is speed to value. Typically, we're seeing the first sales from Shopbox come within 24 hours of being installed on site. So again, that ability to be able to understand customers very quickly and products very quickly means that we have a very, very fast ROI. And we have customers who will talk about ROI within the first week or the first 3 to 4 weeks is typically where they're seeing the entire thing pay for itself, the first year's license pay for itself. The last part is automation. None of the retailers we work with need more work. Most of them are already being distracted by too many things. One of the things that Shopbox brings to bear is complete automation of everything that happens within the catalog. So once a product is added, nobody needs to match it or say where it fits. That's automatically figured out by the system. And it makes no difference whether you got 300 products, 3,000 products, or 300,000 products. That full automation is brought to bear. Typically, when we implement, within a fairly short period of time, we can start to see revenue driven by Shopbox. So typically, that's within the first 24 hours. As we look over the first 4 weeks, we tend to see between 4% and 12% of our customers' revenue is being driven by products that were initially sourced by Shopbox. So products that had never been seen by the customer before, Shopbox presented them, and then they went on to buy those products. And the reason we use that as a metric is because it's probably the hardest metric that we can see, or the strongest metric we can see between a product being sourced and actual revenue being generated. And that's shown to the customer in the dashboard pretty much from the second day. That's as much as I was going to talk about the product. We've many accolades we've been picking up on the innovation that we've been showing and our focus on retail and specifically on helping retailers get up and running extremely fast with very little effort. Here's some of the examples of people talking about the acceleration we see with customers. So that middle one is talking about how quickly customers are buying with Shopbox versus without Shopbox. That one at the very top is a demonstration of the increase in conversion and average order value. And then the one at the very bottom really talks about the implementation. It's pretty much turnkey and it just starts working.
Thank you very much, Alan. That was great. So what kind of retailer is this fit for?
Yeah, so typically, Craig, we see it across all sectors, everything from food and wine through apparel, through hobbies, DIY. So we've seen it across the whole spectrum. Really what we want is variety in a product catalog. So once we see about 300 products, it tends to start working pretty well around that level. So it's really about variety, that there's choice for the customer. Whereas, a typical D2C brand where they might have 3 or 4 products, that's not really a good fit for us because the customer's already made a lot of those choices before they went to the site. So yeah, once we have about 300 products up, we're pretty good. But sector, it seems to be working really well across all sectors. So yeah, so it goes pretty wide.
And how do you know it's working? So how do you know the algorithm's actually delivering? Because I mean, do you do A/B testing? How do you figure it out?
Yeah, we've kind of done a bit of everything down through the year. So A/B testing, measuring conversion, average order value are typically the metrics that we're looking at. We've really started to focus on the revenue generated by Shopbox, because one of the reasons we do that is there's a bit of a balance between conversion and average order value, and obviously the algorithms are trying to figure out how to maximize revenue or margin if a customer can provide us the margin numbers. So that's why we've really started to focus on that. And as I mentioned, I think as going through the slides, we focus on, did we source a product and then did it result in revenue? Is it something that was new to the customer when it was sourced? I think because that shows us expanding the customer into new categories, into new products that they hadn't seen before.
Yeah, got it. And do you give much control to the merchandiser? Because these types of technology are often not trusted by merchandisers, personalization tech. So what level of control do you give to the merchandisers?
Yeah, so that's really important. I think we want to balance between the two things. It's not 100% about the customer, and it's not 100% about what the merchandiser wants to, about the merchandiser micromanaging. So we want to give the merchandiser the ability to set broadly what they're trying to do. So we're trying to shift high margin product. These 40 products we really need to ship very quickly. And then we kind of do that last mile for the customer, where we're saying, here are the 4 or 5 products for this particular customer that will help to drive that agenda. So the merchandiser is controlled, but what we're trying to get away from is that the merchandiser has to say it's product A, B, and C. They're saying, here's the broad parameters to work in, and then we can merchandise for those. Now, the great thing there is that allows them to maximize space in front of the customer. So one of the biggest problems we have is we've got limited space in e-commerce. If they really want to push a particular brand because they've got a marketing relationship with that brand, then we can say, well, look, if the 100 products for that brand, we can make sure that everyone is seeing relevant products within the brand. So they're still hitting the merchandising goals, but they're increasing the number of sales within those goals. So that's why the balance between the two things is the sweet spot for us.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's kind of the warm up of the algorithm is kind of fairly instant, and that's one of the benefits. But
yeah,
how long would the actual project take? How long does it take to actually get running with Shopbox?
It's pretty straightforward. By the way, if the light has changed, my light just went off in my room, so apologies for that. It gets up and running really quickly. So anywhere from within an hour for certain functionality can be available, and then very complex projects for us are 2 to 3 weeks. So they're really high-end retailers where there's a lot of design work and stuff, but most retailers are up and running within an hour. But what's really important is the AI works identically for everybody. Okay, so what tends to take a bit longer for large retailers is they want to do more design and there's more sign off. But the AI works from the first second it goes live. It's a completely cold start and it works straight away. It learns as it's gone live, but it already knows everything it needs to know in order to get relevancy. We tend to see the first sales happen within the first 24 hours. So the next day we can generally show a handful of sales that have happened through Shopbox, and we see those improve over time and start to grow very quickly.
Sure, and I'd assume the actual project you're doing a bit of front end integration. We showed the experience there, but also, do you have any back end integration of products and categories?
No, so really we connect into the e-commerce platform. That's the important thing for us. That gives us everything we need for that. So there's no connecting into ERPs or POS systems or anything like that required, and that's why it's such a light implementation.
So you're integrating to the e-commerce platform's product catalog.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. That's all the questions. Thank you very much for your time, Alan.
Craig, thanks very much. Really nice to speak to you, and lovely to be on the podcast.